everybody. This is the Xbox Elite Series 2 Core, and I've also got the Xbox Series Elite 2, the one that comes with all the goodies, and I've got this guy relatively close to launch. In this video, we are going to talk about the differences between these two, and believe it or not, the D-pad is actually changed. Alright, first let's talk about what you get with the Core controller. As the name suggests, this controller is essentially this without any extras. It comes with the controller itself. It's got this disc D-pad here. It comes with this metal thing to adjust the tension of the joysticks, and this really nice and long braided USB-C cable. I think this is about 10 feet. In terms of wireless functionalities, it'll work with Bluetooth and Xbox Wireless. Now let's get this out of the way. I've always thought that the Xbox Elite 2 controller looks really cool. Look how slick this is. The D-pad just looks so nice, right? It's all pixelated and stuff. It just looks premium. And it feels premium too. But just check out this guy, the red. Oh my god. Look at this. I think this is the best looking controller I've ever had. Oh my god, I cannot believe how good this looks. In terms of functionality, these two are essentially identical. All the buttons are the same, they're essentially the same controller. But with that being said, there are some differences. For one, the faceplates here is soft plastic. It's got this rubbery feel to it. Whereas on the Core, the faceplate is hard plastic. There's no soft coating on top, but maybe this is better. Probably it'll be easier to clean and it doesn't peel off. They both still have these rubbery handles. Feels really nice. Yeah, it's just super grippy. I really love the stick caps on the Xbox controllers. There's these grippy patterns around the stick cap here. Makes it really nice to hold, and this doesn't slip off or anything. And just like the original, you can take these off. And why would you want to take this off? Well, one of the functions is to adjust the tension. You get 3 settings. 1, 2, 3. This is the lightest tension. And the lightest setting here is the same as on the Xbox Series controller. And we have the medium setting here. It's just a tiny bit heavier, not too much. The heaviest setting here is significantly more heavy. In terms of the face buttons, they feel the same. I really like the Xbox switches. These are metal-based switches. You can really feel the click. It's really tactile. When you press in, you feel it, and then you also feel it as it retracts. Feels a lot like the mechanical keyboards, you know. Honestly, I wish all controllers had this switch. This is way better than the rubber dome based switches, and it's also better than these mice switches as well. The problem with these mice switches is if you put on your headphones, you can't really hear the click, and you don't really feel it because I feel like these switches are linear. But the metal based switches that Microsoft use, oh, fantastic. And in terms of spacing, they're close enough where you can press both buttons at once. Honestly, these face buttons are the best on any controller. The shoulder buttons feel really nice, tactile and clicky. You can press it at the edge and also inside here. Also, there's a little bit of a gap here, as you can see. That way you don't accidentally press it. There's a lot of thought that was put into this. And it's probably best if you use the inside of your knuckles here to press these as you go back and forth. On the back of the controller here, you've got 3 settings for the triggers. This one goes all the way. There's quite a bit of tension on this actually. Medium setting goes down halfway. And this setting essentially is gonna make the trigger feels like a button. Not a lot of travel at all. I like this a lot. If you play a lot of fighting games, having a feature like this can help you execute moves a little bit faster. Let's talk about the D-pad. On the surface, they look exactly the same, right? It's the same design. It's a circular disc. It's got these pixelated lines that kind of caves in toward the middle. It's very clicky, easy to press. They just feel really good. Now on the original controller, I did not like this guy at all. It's super loose for one. Diagonals are terrible on this. And the edge of this disc is just super sharp. I typically roll my thumbs around the edges here so I can feel it. And it just carves up your thumb like crazy. It's just really uncomfortable to use. Not a fan of this guy at all. And you know what? To my surprise, Microsoft actually changed the edge of this D-pad. Let's see if you can see it well, but it's curved now. Whereas on the original, there's no curve at all. It's just really thin and sharp. And on the new one, it just feels thicker and more rounded. Such a minor change and such attention to detail. If you're playing 3D fighting games where diagonals are crucial, this D-pad is still not the best. Diagonals are not perfect. And that's because this thing is a disc and your thumb cannot feel your way around the D-pad to know which direction is a diagonal. They kind of all feel the same. Whereas on the Xbox Series X controller, even though it looks similar, your thumb can feel around these raised edges. But here, it's just almost a flat surface. There's really no feel. However, I will say this, I did get used to it after playing on it for a while. So if you're willing to be patient with this, I think it can be good, but you're gonna just have to invest time in it. But you know what's the crazy part about this? This D-pad is so good for motion inputs, particularly Street Fighter 6. Surprisingly, this guy is so comfortable because there's no raised edges. You're able to slide your thumb back and forth so easily. And because it's caved in, it's super easy to do 4 circles. You put your thumb right in the middle and just rotate. Super smooth. Some Street Fighter 6 moves will require you to rotate this thing 360 twice. 1, 2. Super easy.
This is your last ride. Let's go. You're in great test.
And honestly, I'm really surprised by that because coming from this guy, I was not a fan. But with this guy and just a minor adjustment of rounding off the edges here makes a world of difference. And this is what happened when you pay attention to detail. And really, just think about it. Who would have thought just rounding off the edges will make a big difference? Well, Microsoft sure did, so kudos to them. And if you flip the controllers over, these paddles here are on the Xbox Elite 2 controller, and there's no paddles here. You can buy the additional accessories separately, and they are interchangeable. You can use them on either one. You've got 2 paddles here on the top, and then 2 on the bottom. With the full Elite controller, you also get a case with goodies in them. The paddles would go in here, and then you have additional stick caps, also a cross-shaped D-pad, and a wireless charging station. This thing is super cool. You get one really long one here, 2 shorter ones, and another short one but with a convex shape. And I just learned this recently actually from one of my commenters in one of my videos. The purpose for this dome-based stick cap is so that you can roll your fingers around easier. If you play fighting games on the joystick, I actually recommend having a dome-based stick cap. This is a lot easier to roll your hands around. Doing motion inputs like this, the only problem with this is if you pull your stick back, your finger will just slide off. But with this design, you can do circular motions a lot easier than a convex design like this. This is not as easy to do because your thumb only come in contact with the stick at the edge right here. Whereas with this guy, there's more contact surface area. So if you're playing games that requires you to rotate the stick around a lot, go with this guy. On the regular Elite 2 controller, I typically don't play fighting games with this guy. I use the cross-shaped D-pad, and this cross-shaped D-pad does a pretty good job for the most part. Diagonals are a lot more accurate just because I can reach two of the buttons at the same time. The surface is pretty smooth. I can move my finger around, no problem. This cross-shaped D-pad is actually a little heavier than I'd like, just because it's smaller, so the tension is a little higher as you get closer to the center of the D-pad. Whereas with this guy, it's a lot bigger, so it feels lighter when you press at the edges. The only problem I have with this guy is that it's kind of low. Not only that, but the area around the D-pad is caved in. So when you're trying to do a diagonal, you're going to have to press not only the D-pad, but through this edges around it. Down forward is not a problem, but down back is, just because the edge here is blocking my thumb. Yeah, I don't have any other issues other than down back. If you require accuracy, I recommend going with this cross-shaped D-pad. This guy's probably better for 3D fighters, and this shaped D-pad is so good for Street Fighter 6 or really any fighters that require motion inputs. The surface area is super smooth. It's just so satisfying just going around and around and around. Alright, time to do an input lag test on these guys. For wired, they're both the same, with the Elite 2 minimum 4.75, maximum 9.86, and on average 785. Polling rate 127.23. For the core, minimum 5.89, maximum 9.83, and on average 7.85 again is the same thing as the original controller. Polling rate is also the same at 127. And these two numbers are exactly the same as on the Xbox Series X, which also has a 127 polling rate. Alrighty, moving on to the Xbox wireless adapter. On the Elite Series 2, minimum 419, maximum 2396, average is 15.61 milliseconds, polling rate is 64 Hz. On the core, minimum 3.64, maximum 16.22, average is 14.12, and the polling rate here is slightly higher at 70.81. So it looks like the core is slightly faster than the original Series 2. And then on Bluetooth, for the Series 2, minimum 0.51, maximum 59. So there's a huge jump, and this is bigger than the wireless adapter. On average 15.46, and polling rate is at 64, which is the same as on the Xbox wireless adapter. On the core, minimum is 0.52, essentially the same as the Series 2. Maximum 22.65. This is a lot less than on the Series 2. On average 9.1. This is significant. This is about 6 millisecond difference, and this is because the polling rate is higher at 109.81. So as you can see here on the core, at least on the wireless side of things, on the adapter and on Bluetooth, the core is a bit faster than the original, but they both pale in comparison to wired. Wired has faster polling rate, therefore faster input delay. And throughout my testing, this is usually the case. 99% of the time, wired is the way to go. It's more consistent. You don't have to deal with interference. You see here, interference has such a big gap. And then on wired, there's not much of a gap here at all between the minimum and the maximum input delay. So plug in your controllers, folks. Alright, there we go. Coming into this, I was expecting this controller to be essentially the same, but it turns out they're not. The D-pad, just a minor rounding off on the edges here of this D-pad makes a huge difference. And I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. Alrighty, that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more, and take care now.